My name is Joe Pauwels, and I've been at CCRT for about 10 years now. I was a General Motors employee for 30-some years, and when I retired, it was kind of interesting. I knew I really wanted to give back to the community. I felt that, even though I was someone involved in things at church and those kinds of things, because of work life and whatnot, you really can't do the kind of things and spend the amount of time you want to. So I knew I wanted to do something, and I wasn't quite sure what. And it took me about 2 or 3 days to find that out, because I had 2 friends both call me and say, basically, we don't think you're doing much of anything. You ought to join us. And both of them, of course, were very involved in CCRT at the time. One, of course, with the grocery and clothing program. The other person was just starting out the furniture program. And as he explained it to me, the furniture program was something that they wanted to start because they were becoming very well aware of the fact that many kids, many adults, anybody in Pontiac were sleeping on the floor. And it started out really focusing on the kids. At least we could do is get a bed for kids that are sleeping on the floor and try and do something about that. So we started putting articles in bulletins of the local churches, and people started donating furniture, primarily beds, because that's what we asked for. And before you know it, we had a pretty good, almost a good little business going, where we'd go pick up the furniture from the person and actually deliver it to the clients that needed the furniture, and those clients were identified by the people in the CCRT office. In addition to the furniture, we had been doing it for a few years, and it became apparent to us again through the CCRT office that many of the folks in Pontiac don't have a means of transportation. It's easy to say, hey, why don't those people get a job when there's no way to get to the job? And so we thought, well, at least we could do something like bicycles. So it was decided, what if we started collecting bicycles kind of like we collect furniture? Put advertisements in the bulletin or word of mouth or whatever, and actually have people donate bikes. Maybe we can get a couple of people, which we did, who know a lot about bikes and can repair bikes if they're broken. So we did that. We found a place to store the bikes. Bikes would be donated. We'd have 1 or 2 of our guys who were pretty proficient at fixing them. We'd fix them, and then we'd return the bikes to the office at CCRT, and they'd be handed out to the clients that were in need of the bicycles. It was kind of part of the whole furniture thing in a way, because we use the same facility where we store them, but in some ways it's separate, because it tends to be different guys that do it, and it also tends to be something that we kind of do through the office as opposed to doing it ourselves. One other thing I wanted to mention about the furniture program, the thing that I think as a group of volunteers, we really appreciate and enjoy is the fact that we're one of the few groups of people who service, some of the poorer people in Pontiac who actually see how they live. We have an opportunity to go to their homes, go to their apartments, and when we get there, we see the fact that they basically have nothing. They're sleeping on the floor with maybe a pillow and a blanket, or maybe an air mattress. They have no couch. They have no place to eat their breakfast or their lunch or their dinner because they don't have a kitchen table. And it's such a rewarding thing to be able to give them those kinds of things and hopefully make a difference in their lives. And I think in most cases it certainly does. And it probably makes an even bigger difference in our lives. One incident comes to mind. There are certainly several that I could probably talk about, but one incident really comes to mind, whereby we had a family that we had been given a request for furniture, a mom and 3 or 4 kids, I believe. I don't remember the exact number. But when we got to the house, mom wasn't home. She was out looking for a job, but grandma was there. And it was one of those situations where they had nothing. We brought in beds, we brought in a kitchen table, we brought in couch, and the kids were just so thrilled. A couple of them were hugging our different volunteers' legs and all that. And the grandma said to us, "There's some other problem I want to tell you folks about. There is no furniture, there is no food in this house. I don't know what to feed them." And so we said, well, we think we can take care of that. So one of our guys went dashing off to McDonald's to get McDonald's so we could give them an immediate meal. One of our other guys went back to CCRT to pick up 2 or 3 bags of food. Incidentally, in that house, a couple of the windows were broken out. So one of our guys started measuring the windows and actually came back and repaired the windows. So here was a case where I like to think our volunteers went above and beyond. It was such a great experience to be able to help. Sad, but nonetheless, we were able to really make a difference there. And I think that client stayed in touch with some of our guys quite a bit in terms of getting other things fixed in the house. So it was just one example of how our group, I think, makes a difference in people's lives. Yeah, the only other thing I'd like to mention is we talked about what can people do, who should get interested in CCRT, and there's so many different ways to get involved. One of the things that Lou, our leader in the furniture business, whenever he approaches someone, he is great at getting volunteers to come join us. And one of the methods he uses is, why don't you come spend a day with us? You know, if you're unsure, just spend a day with us. And I can't tell you how many volunteers he's gotten that way, but it's been quite a few. When you do spend a day with us, it makes a big difference. You get a real sense of what we're about, and not only experience helping the clients, but also experience the camaraderie that we have among each other. It truly is fun. I mean, there's some sadness with it when you go into some of the houses, but to be able to make a difference and do it with a bunch of like-minded people who you enjoy being with, it truly makes a difference. Beyond volunteering with movers and shakers, if you'd like to repair bikes, obviously always a need for that. Always a need for people in the office, especially during summer months, for example, when people go on vacation, or maybe during winter months when some of us fellow volunteers are snowbirds and head down to Florida. So a lot of opportunity for volunteers. And there's also opportunities if you're at a parish and your parish maybe hasn't had a toiletry drive in a while. We can always use toiletries for our clients. Encourage your church, your parish, to, hey, why don't we have a toiletry drive? Why don't we have a drive to collect kitchen items? We have what we call kitchens in a box, where we kind of put all the kitchen items together and we give it to a client. A real opportunity for people to participate, even if they don't have a chance to volunteer. And of course, we always hate to ask for it, but there's always money. The thing I like about CCRT is you can guarantee people that anything they donate goes directly to client services. We're almost all volunteers. There's only 2 part-time employees. And their expenses, the expense of the building we use for the offices, we get through donations or through money from the various parishes. So the money that comes in specifically for client services are used for client services and not administrative costs. So many opportunities to help CCRT, and many people do, and we certainly appreciate it. And we've been very fortunate. Barb and Pete are our employees. Barb has been there a number of years, well before I started volunteering there, and she has been such a champion of CCRT, not only in terms of promoting it, but also in the way she treats clients. The clients love her. I can't think of a better way to say it. They're always, when I run into somebody or when we deal with somebody over furniture or over something else, they always say how much they appreciate what Barb has done for them and how much they appreciate how kind she is. And she has just been such an ongoing force for CCRT. She really is kind of the backbone. And even our volunteers, they all respect her and appreciate all that she's done for CCRT. So it's just been a great experience to have her there. She's so even keeled, so laid back in terms of never getting emotionally or upset. And I think everybody just appreciates being around Barb, and CCRT would not be the same without her. In addition to Barb, we've been very fortunate to have 2 very good additional employees or caseworkers. First, we had Suzanne for a number of years. Suzanne was just excellent to work with. Again, very caring. The clients thought so much of her. In fact, many of them would always, whenever I see a client that I know, they always ask me how Suzanne's doing. I actually worked in the office for a couple of years on Fridays when Suzanne was there, and it was a great experience. She was always so helpful, so kind, so much respected by others. She left us probably 2 years ago, I'd say. I'm not exactly sure. And then Pete took over. He joined the staff there at CCRT, and he too has been very good with the clients and with the other volunteers. I think he works kind of like Suzanne. I think they work maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and has just been not only good with the clients, but also in Pete's case, he's very organized and can help with a lot of the paperwork and attend meetings and those kinds of things, which is very helpful for Barb, because then there's some things she doesn't have to do. So again, the part-time staff that we have, even though it's probably more than part-time for them, has just been a great advantage for CCRT. And very good for us as volunteers to have them there to always be our support and our direction. So I mentioned, CCRT has just a great group of volunteers. We all get along so well, but one concern I think we all have is that none of us are getting any younger. And as CCRT goes on, and hopefully it has a very long future, we really need younger people to start getting involved. I think there are a couple of volunteers who are younger and are obviously glad to help, but we certainly need to keep developing that and growing that. I think it's a great model to have the volunteers be a lot of retirees, because we tend to have the time. But at the same token, it's good to have other volunteers who can help us and do things for CCRT that we may not be able to do later on. Now, that applies to Barb and Pete too. Not that I'm implying that they're old, but I'm just saying that they're not going to be around forever either. And so we really need to start thinking about the future and what happens if Barb or Pete or both decide to step down. Then where do we go? So I think we need to keep thinking about who might be their replacements, and I think we've got to be conscious of the fact that some people may need, quite frankly, more salary than what something part-time does, and so consequently funding always becomes an issue when you start looking at some of those kinds of things.